What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Welcome. Happy Friday. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott of Subliminal Mindset Mastery in London, Ontario. And it is a gorgeous day. It's a gorgeous day. And I'm sure there are people that would disagree with me, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You can really feel the spring in the air because we're at that stage in the wintertime. I love it. Yes. So today I'm excited about actually. We are doing sort of a continuation show of last week's show. Last week's show was called What Do You Desire? And this is sort of a follow up. We're actually going to talk on this show about how to do the manifestation of your desires. So that's what it's called. It's called Manifest Your Desires, What is Required. And we're going to be talking about the how of the manifestation process. Oh, yay. All right. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, we talk about our subliminal soundtrack, and I will give you a brief description of that in just a moment. But we talk about how to make it work for us rather than against us, how to recognize our unique beauty and value, and what kind of a contribution are we to the world? That is what this show is all about. And I got to tell you, I just love doing it every Friday. I get all jazzed and excited. And then I have these wonderful people. So today I've got Jen and Christine with me, and they are both amazing producers and amazing people. And I just love being in their presence. Thank you guys so much for what you do for us on the shows. So, here is our show description for today. There is this idea that's become quite popular. And, we all know why it's become popular, The Secret and all of this sort of stuff. That we can just sort of dream about our dreams and our desires, and they will magically appear. Magically appear. And it's not 100% correct. There is a process that goes along with this, and it does start with the dreaming and the visualizing and the getting some clarity and some juicy, yummy energy around the whole idea of what it is that we desire. But there's a little bit more to it. So we're going to talk about that as we go through the show today. So our subliminal soundtrack is this that's my term. That's my term. I've heard people call it all kinds of stuff. Internal script, internal dialogue, whatever terminology makes you happy, go ahead and use it. But my term is subliminal soundtrack, and what I'm talking about is that loop of messages that plays on the back of your mind all day, every day. Your subliminal soundtrack is made up of every experience that you've ever had, every conversation, every lesson, every relationship, everything that's ever happened to you throughout the course of your life. So these messages will cause us to behave in certain ways because of our belief systems that are formed around things. So for an example, if you when you were a child were told, "Oh my gosh, you are the fastest runner, you are so good at this thing," then you would probably have a different level of confidence in somebody that tripped and fell when they tried to run and were told, "Oh my god, like what is that?" Right? So it's very important for us to get clarity about this stuff, because the things that have happened, particularly in childhood, the things that have caused us to form these belief systems, they're not things that we have consciously chosen for ourselves. They are things that sort of got written onto this soundtrack, and they play back there over and over and over and over again. So that is what we do at Subliminal Mindset Mastery. We actually get to the heart of the matter. We pull the thing out, we look at it, we deal with whatever we need to deal with, and make it into a true statement that will actually propel us towards success. So that is what we do here. It's very important for us to get clear on these stuff, because here's the thing. Two things, actually. I heard the other day that the average person has between 60 and 80,000, I said thousand, thoughts go through their mind every single day. Now, I did the math because that's what I do, because I'm a weirdo. And that works out to about 2,500 thoughts an hour, or about 50 thoughts every minute. I don't know about you, but I cannot identify every thought that's going through my head. If they're 50 in a minute, oh my gosh. So that really just sort of validates that a lot of the stuff that's happening back there is happening in our subconscious where we're not aware of it. Very important for us to start to understand what's going on in our subconscious if we want to create a situation or a life that is built around the things that we do desire rather than these limiting belief systems that have been created often by other people in our lives, often by the teachers and the parents and well-meaning, well-meaning. This isn't a blame shame kind of a conversation, but well-meaning people. And those circumstances create these things. So we want to break free of them. We want to break free of the ones that are holding us back. The second piece of this is whatever we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it is based on completely incorrect information. It's so fascinating. This whole thing, it just fascinates me. I listen to people talk and I'm like, ooh, I have a lot of fun. And what's really cool is that my tribe is actually now starting to talk about their subliminal soundtrack with me. So that's the language they're using. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, how this is going to play out in this thing about manifesting your desires and your dreams, if you believe that by wishing and claiming what you desire, it will magically show up in your life, then you may actually never make the shifts or take the action required to make those things happen. Worse, if you believe that you're not worthy, capable, or deserving of having those things, then you very likely are never going to do anything about it. Very likely. Because why would you? You don't believe that you're going to get there. So why would you waste your time and energy, right? But if you believe that you're worthy, capable, deserving of having whatever it is that you desire, you will do what's required and create those opportunities for yourself. It's so cool. So that is the really good news. Even when we have those limiting beliefs sort of really locked in, we can change them. We can change them. So this is what we do. This is what we do. We work on all of that kind of stuff. So there is an article currently on phoenixcoach.ca. So that is the current website. The Subliminal Mindset Mastery website is coming any day now. And that one will have a different article because I rewrote it. So the article that you can get today is 3 easy ways to reset your subliminal soundtrack. And I wrote that probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I've learned a few things since then, right? So I've rewritten the article. It is now called 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. Doesn't that sound yummy? And it will be available as soon as the new website goes live. So keep track of the show, watch us on Facebook, and you will see because there's going to be a great big yay when it finally happens. And that website is going to be called subliminalmindsetmastery.com. So just keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, you'll find us. So here's where I'm going to start this. If you've been watching the show, then you know some of the stuff that I talk about quite often. And I just want you to really get a feel for how I learned this stuff. When I was 16 years old, I came home pregnant. So 17 years old, I became a single mom. And you can probably guess that life changed rather drastically for me at that point. It wasn't a time when I had anticipated having those responsibilities or having, you know, the things that are required of a mom, a new mom especially, and 17 years old. But, I was determined and I loved this guy even before he came onto the planet and so on and so forth. So I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked toward building a life for him, a good life for him, because I felt very responsible for that. He didn't ask to be born, my responsibility. So I wanted him to have a decent life. And so I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked, and I would always fall just short of the mark, always fall just short of the mark. And I would give up. I'd throw my hands in the air, and nothing ever works out for me. I'll tell you one really good one that I used to say all the time. My girlfriend would tell you that this is true. I went over to her place, and I was talking to her one day, and the kids were all small, so they were all playing and whatever. And she's like, "What's going on? You don't look like yourself today." And I was like, "Man, I am such a shit magnet." Ooh, 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 ooh. But see, that was the belief systems that I had. That was true for me in that moment. Is it true? Absolutely not. But in that moment, I believed it. And therefore, those situations kept on coming. They kept on coming because number one, I was speaking it out there and making it a reality. And number two, I was buying into it. I was looking for those shit magnet things to show up. So I was paying attention. I wasn't looking for the other things that may well have been there, those opportunities and those chances for me to shift my thinking and start to see my own worth and my own value. Because here's the really cool thing that I learned one day. I had always been, a hard worker, industrious, smart girl, good grades, willing to work hard, willing to do what was required, kind and loving and helpful, and all of these things. But I had bought into this idea when this news came down when I was 16 years old. It was like, man, you have ruined your life. Your life is over now. You will never be able to achieve. You will never be able to correct this. You will live with the consequences of this thing for the rest of your life. Now, how heavy does that feel? How heavy? It's just like it's really kind of gross. In all honesty, it's really kind of gross. But at some point I began to understand that I was the same person. I was the same person 5 minutes before I made that announcement as I was at the moment that I made that announcement. Nothing had changed about me. I was still a hard worker. I was still smart and I was still willing to go after things. And I was still all of those things that I had been before I announced that news. All of those things. And did it complicate things? Sure. It made things a little bit more tricky. It made things a little bit, there were other considerations and other responsibilities that had to be taken into the process of anything. Was it doable? For that smart girl? Absolutely. Absolutely. I look back now, I've got friends that I knew at that stage in my life. And we talk about this sometimes like, wow, look at how far we've come. Look at how far we come. And that is sort of the beauty that comes when you get to sort of this midlife place. I'm going to be 50 in November. And when I think back to where I started, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. But it's because all of those qualities were still inside that girl. I just couldn't see it for a while because I bought into this idea, this belief system that it was all over. It was all over. And I created the life around that. And that's kind of the sad part, is that instead of taking all of those beautiful qualities and using them, I actually created a life that was around the limitations and the ideas that I was not good, that I was not worthy, that I had ruined my life. Feel that energy. It really, sometimes nowadays it almost makes me cry when I think about that because number one, it wasn't true. And number two, what it did to that girl, it breaks my heart a little bit what it did to that girl. But now we know better and we create different. So this is how I have learned what I've learned about the subliminal soundtrack is I have walked it. I have lived it. And in the learning of how to shift and change and break free of those limiting beliefs and the lies that we've bought into and the stories that we've told ourselves. In the process, I learned so much about how to do this that I'm now able to do it and hand it to other people and say, here's what you do. Here's how you do it. Here's the roadmap that I didn't have, but I created it. So yay, right? Okay, so one last thing that I'm going to share with you before we go to our first break is that when we talk about this manifestation process, there is very often a thing that is required, sometimes multiple things, but is very often a thing that's required of us in order to get there. So I was just thinking about this morning and I was like, would you go to a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant who had just dreamed that they were a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant and started calling them that? Or do you want somebody who actually took the steps to go and get the education and learn the skill set that they can do these things for you? I mean, I don't know. I have no interest in going to somebody who just went, poof, I'm a doctor. It's kind of ridiculous. But if you take it back to this idea that all we have to do is dream about it and go bibbity bobbity boo, I'm a doctor. Yay. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Would you, if you're looking for a romantic love partner, would you expect to find that by sitting on your couch, or do you need to get off your butt and go and do something? Mm, I don't know. I have yet to have that knight in shining armor just show up on my doorsteps when I'm sitting in my couch doing absolutely nothing, probably in, my grubby work clothes and stuff like that. No, it doesn't happen that way. You must take action to make these things come into your life. Would you decide to travel the world without getting your passport? See, it's really that simple. Sometimes there's just a thing that you have to do to make these things possible, and then they can show up. So, we're going to head to our first break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about how of manifesting your dreams. So, stick with us. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about how to manifest your desires. Ooh, yummy, yummy, yummy. All right, so what happens? What happens when we start to believe that we do deserve to have these yummy things in our lives? What do you think happens? We begin to try. We begin to try. We get curious. We start, checking things out. And geez, I wonder if I could. I wonder if I could. That's a yummy place to start. Give ourselves the opportunity to see what we are really made of. This is what happens when we start to actually believe that we might, maybe we deserve something better than what we have decided before that we did. Maybe we do. So I'm going to tell you where this started for me. There was a company that it's one of these what do you call those? Direct sales, is that what they call it these days? These companies where they have a whole bunch of different sales reps that represent the same product. There was one of those that came into my world, and it was sort of right around this time where I was starting to think a little bit differently. I was starting to think, I wonder what might be possible. And So I signed up with this, and I mean, I didn't do terribly well in the business end of things, but man, they gave me my taste to personal development. They gave me this taste for reading the books and watching the shows and listening to the speakers, the inspiration, the all of that kind of stuff. And that was what really started to shift things for me, was just that, like, I wonder if I can. I wonder what I could make. I wonder what I could create for myself. That's where it started to shift. And so I learned so much from that particular company, learned like so much. And most of it was in the personal development um, part of things, because, in order to do sales, you have to have some confidence. You have to have a certain way of being. Now, I've never been one of these people that is comfortable with trying to convince people. Like, if you've ever taken sales training, it's like, oh, you have to learn how to deal with the objections. No, I mean, I just trust the universe to bring the right people my way. The people that I can help, the people that it would be fun and comfortable and yummy for us to work together and do these things together. Those are the people that I look for. Those are the people that I call into my world. Because why would I want to argue with somebody? Like, really, why do I want to argue with some? If you don't see the value, you don't see the value. That's okay. I do. I do, or I wouldn't be doing this, right? But that sort of getting into that space of like, what could I do? What fits for me? What is comfortable for me? Interesting stuff, right? But you start to open up and start to question things and go, is this thing that I've created the thing that I really want? Or is there more? Is there more available to me and what would I have to do? What would I have to do to create the opportunities to open myself up, to bring in the people that could help me with this? What do I need to do? Interesting stuff. And that's sort of where that dreaming of what I'd like to create, that's where it starts, right? The possibilities and getting that sort of energetic flow going with the things that you would like to create for yourselves. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment, because I've got actually some tips on how to do this thing that I'm going to share with you then. So, one of the other things that happens is we start to take chances. We start to take chances and being a little bit more comfortable with, like, creating this thing. So I've talked about how we lived in Alberta for a number of years, and there was a thing that happened, and I think I've probably shared this on another show. There was a thing that happened. We moved out there. We moved out there. We had a car and a van. We had a big dog and 3 adults, because my son came with us, and we moved into one hotel room. We stayed there for 3 months before we actually found a home to move into. And I remember one day waking up in the morning and just having this thing going through my head. Now, I don't know what I'd been dreaming, or if it was just sort of a message that came to me when I woke up, but this thing went through my head and it was like, boom. It was like that moment when the light bulb comes on and you go, oh my God, oh my God. And what this message was simply, how are you ever going to move forward if you're always looking behind you? You have to release these beliefs that you have carried in order to move toward the dream that you would like to achieve for yourself. You cannot keep carrying those things and allowing them to be true and expecting yourself to create something different. It's not realistic. So we must get at these messages and deal with those limiting beliefs, be gone and get on with things, because that's what opens us up. That's what opens the world up. That's what opens our eyes up to see the different possibilities or opportunities that are coming our way that we couldn't see before because we weren't looking for them. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not really that hard to do, but it does require some effort. So then we start to shift our perspective and our perceptions of who we be. And that is where this gets really sort of yummy. And it also can get very uncomfortable, because sometimes what happens is these people that we have in our world are not able to shift with us, or they're not able to see things from our perspective. And, friends will go, sometimes relationships will go, sometimes parents will, i- children, like all of it. Sometimes people will sort of push back at us because they don't understand. They don't understand. And it's not like we don't want to make that wrong. We don't want to make them wrong. Sometimes it's time for us to step onto our own path and allow the other person to keep walking on theirs. That's it. You want to make a change. You want to make these shifts. You need to be prepared that certain things will fall away and some people will also likely fall away. And what's waiting for you on the other side of that is very often worth it, especially if you have put yourself into this box and lived there your whole life and you feel constricted and tight and tied up and all of that, like that constriction, it's suffocating. The constriction is suffocating, and if you try to stay there, I'm not sure that that's going to be a very happy life. I'm just not sure. And you'll be the one who gets to decide that for yourself. For me, it was necessary for me to actually break free of those bonds, break free of the box that I had put myself in. And it's funny because a friend of mine posted something on Facebook the other day, and it was something about this breaking free. It was something about this opening up. And what are you doing? And my response was something to the effect of, it feels to me what I would imagine it's like for a butterfly to break free of their cocoon. And birth is always painful and it's always messy, but the beauty comes afterwards, doesn't it? Mhm. It's always that. It's always that. And we cannot get to that birthplace unless we are willing to break through. And again, your choice. I'm not telling you have to do anything here. I'm just telling you what's waiting for you on the other side. So the next thing that I want to share with you is this thing that happens to me, and I think it happens to other people. It's this thing where you just feel like something's coming. You maybe don't know exactly what it is that's coming, but I remember actually very clearly when just before we moved to Trenton, I just had this sense that there was this shift happening and something big was happening. And this was before I had any idea about like energy stuff or whatever. I hadn't learned any of that yet, but I knew that something big was about to happen. I sensed it. I sensed it in my body, right? I sensed it in my being. It was like, oh, something's coming. What's coming? And so I started to watch for it. I started to watch for it. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, we were packing up and moving to Trenton because that was the shift. That was the shift. And we couldn't predict the things that happened that led us to make that decision. We couldn't predict it, but boom, there it was. And the same thing happened before we moved to Alberta. There was this pull, there was this feeling like this is the right move. And it's almost sometimes strong enough that it's like I can't resist this. I can't argue with this. And that thing, my friend, that is your intuition. That is your intuition telling you this is the direction for you to go to get to that next thing. You don't have to. You don't have to follow it. And I'm sure that there are probably times when I haven't, when I've noticed something and I just haven't done it. But I promise you, every single time when I had that strong sense of pull in a direction, pull to take a course, pull to take a class, pull to establish a relationship with somebody, pull to release a relationship with somebody. Every time that's happened and I have followed through on it, I have not regretted it. It has been the exact right thing for me to do at that time. So trust your intuition. When those things show up and you know something big is coming, pay attention to what's going on around you and follow the pull. Follow the pull. I promise you it has never let me down. And you might need to polish your intuition a little bit before you start, packing up and moving your family in different cities or different parts of the country. But I'm just saying, for me, this has never, ever, ever let me down. So I'm getting told that we need to go to our next break. So we're going to head to our break now. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back, I'm going to share with you some steps and tips to take you through this process of manifesting your desires. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and we are at that place where I am just about to share with you some tips and some steps on how to do this manifestation process. So I'm going to encourage you just over the next minute, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, make some notes when we come to that place. But there are a couple of things that I want to share with you just before we get there. So subliminalmindsetmastery.com is a new website. I talked about that. That's going to be coming up in the very near future. We also have a Facebook page, and I'm helping a friend of mine, Sheena, with a group that she's been building for the last few years. It is fantastic. And one of the things that I was thinking about the other day was, what is it that's missing from my world? This, the pandemic's been kind of hard on all of us, right? And I was thinking about, what is it that's missing? What could I bring in that would actually help me to feel happy and joyful and all of that sort of stuff? So I'm going to share with you something that most people don't know, but I was trained several years ago in how to do laughter yoga. And laughter yoga is this thing where you laugh on purpose. So it's not about like watching comedies and laughing along when somebody does something funny or whatever. It is actually, I am purposefully, I don't care what my mood is. I could be on the verge of crying, but I'm going to laugh right now. And you can do that. There are health benefits, man, really amazing health benefits. They say laughter is the best medicine. It's true. So we have endorphins that get going through our body, the deep breathing, and that's why they call it yoga, is because of the deep breathing that happens when we're laughing. So I'm kicking around this idea of starting to do a little bit of laughter yoga, because for me, if you've had me in your world at all, you know that my favorite times are when I'm laughing and being silly and having fun with my friends. There's very little that I enjoy more than laughing so hard that my sides hurt. Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do. And, I bring those people into my world because they're funny and I love them. Anyway, so what I'm thinking about doing is on the Facebook page, starting to run, I don't know how often, I don't know all the details yet, but laughter yoga. And I think that would feed my soul. And also, I think that a lot of other people could benefit from that being purposeful, bringing that purposeful laughter and all of the health benefits into their world. So Find us on Facebook. Subliminal Mindset Mastery is the name of the page. Find us on there. There's fun stuff that I do sometimes. So just find us on there and watch. You'll see just about everything that's coming up. Yes. So lots of really interesting things happening in my world, in my business, and so on and so forth. One thing before we get into the how to, I just want to touch on something that I meant to say in the last segment. So where this thing gets hung up, we're talking about the intuition, when we're talking about feeling that pull and following it, where this thing gets hung up for me is in my mind. And I want to just help you understand how that happens, because our minds are actually there to protect us. So you hear about people that have amnesia, or they can't remember traumatic events and so on and so forth. That's because their mind has locked it down, because the mind doesn't believe, doesn't trust us to know what to do with that thing. Okay. So where this thing has always gotten hung up for me is when my mind gets involved, because then I start thinking about the rights and the wrongs and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and all of that stuff. So it's very important, if you were actually going into this process of the intuition and following that pull, you need to tell your mind to shut up. Just enough. Thank you very much. I've got this. And then go into that intuitive place inside you. Check in with that, follow that, because the mind will just try to shut you down. That's where it's going to be, the limiting beliefs and all of that kind of stuff are going to come into play, and they're going to stop you from doing the thing that may well be the thing that's going to bring that person or that situation that you really desire into your life. So let's just ignore the mind for a little while and tap into that place. Follow your heart. Follow your heart. It knows where it's going. Yes, yes. All right. So here is the how to, and I really hope that you've got a pen and paper with you right now, because this is pretty good stuff. So step number 1 is the thing that we hear about. Allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to think about that thing that you really desire. And I mean, I'm not talking about just like, oh, it would be nice to. No, I want you to get in there, man. Get in there and be with that thing that you would like to create in your world. If you want to be a doctor, how would it feel for you to save someone's life? How would it feel? How would it feel to be the person who helps someone else with something that they can't do for themselves? Do you see what I'm saying? How would it feel if, if you want to work in a certain field, you want to live in a certain neighborhood, how's it going to feel to live in that neighborhood or drive that car that you would like to bring into your world? How will it feel? Get right in there, man. Close your eyes, imagine it, enjoy it, and just like soak it up. Soak it up, man. And that is the beginning of the manifestation process. Next step is we have to figure out what is required. So if you watched the show last week, I was talking about this dream that I had had for a very, very, very long time. I love horses, and I had dreamed of having horses for years, decades probably. And a friend of mine called me one day and said, "Hey, would you like to come out and help me with the horses?" I was like, "Hell yeah." Tell me when and where. I am on my way. And what I didn't understand was what she wanted me to do to help her with the horses. So went into the barn, and the horses were caked with mud and like frozen. It was freezing and thawing, freezing and thawing, freezing and thawing. And it was my job to brush this and comb this muck, dried muck out of their fur, out of their tails, out of their manes, out of their whatever, to get them cleaned up, right? And I left there after doing this for a few hours. I left there with a whole different idea about whether or not I wanted horses. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's important for us to figure out what is required. Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to take a certain course? Do you need a certain certification? Do you need something done with your health? Do you need to hire a coach or a counselor to help you work through the things that might be holding you back from achieving those things or going after them in the first place? What is required of you to to get into that place, where you are opening the doors for yourself or allowing the opportunities in? All right, so that's your second step. What is required? What is the investment? And that time, energy, or money, What is the investment? And are you willing to do whatever that thing is that you need to do? Very important for you to figure that out right from the get go. Because, I mean, it's okay for you to dream about whatever you want to dream about. You don't have to necessarily take action. But again, if you don't take action, you're not opening yourself up to the really juicy possibilities that could be waiting for you. So that's the thing. We've got to figure out, am I prepared to do the work and make that investment of my time, my energy, and or my money? All right. Our next, oh, I skipped one. Oh, I skipped one. I'm sorry. The second step is get clarity. So that's the thing where we want to ask, what is it about this thing that would actually make me happy? What is it about this that would make me happy? And then we start to journal and talk with our people. Why does this matter to me? Why is this important to me? Is it something that is going to bring me to the place of joy and happiness that I believe it will? That's the thing. Okay. So step 1 is allow yourself to dream. Step 2 is get clarity. Step 3 is what is required. And that's the thing about him. I'm willing to make this investment of my time, energy, and money. Okay. Step 4 is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we start to take action. So do something that starts to move you in the direction of the thing that you want to create for yourself. If you decided that you needed to go back and get a certain course or certification, then you need to register for that thing, right? Maybe you need to start saving your money before you register for that thing. Only you will know, but there is a starting point. And the beautiful thing about this, my friends, is that even baby steps will get you to where you want to be. So you start to move in that direction and doors will start to open for you. People will start to show up that can help you further in that journey. I promise you. I promise you, when I look back to my life about 5 years ago compared to now, the people that have come in, the opportunities that have shown up, I never could have expected. I never could have known that these things were coming. So start to go in that direction and see what shows up. Now, following the energy there is the really important thing. So when you meet a person or when you hear about a thing or a place, when you're gonna, okay, so this is where the body becomes really important because our body can be that sort of what's that word, it's like our compass almost. We can feel it. Sometimes we can't always sense it in other ways, but we can feel it in our body. When your body starts to go, oh boy, that feels yummy. When your body starts to do that, pay attention to what is happening because that is very likely a thing that that pull is starting to happen. Okay. So pay attention to whether your body is saying, yummy, yummy, or, oh, no, don't go there. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Pay attention to your body and see what it shows up. The last step. So step 5 of this process is course correct and commit. Course correct and commit. So if you are really wanting to become a doctor, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to spend money. You're going to have to spend years of training. If you want to be a lawyer, the same thing, an accountant, the same thing. If you want to learn how to do Reiki, and maybe it's not the same time or money commitment, but there is a commitment. There will always be a commitment. And that, I think, is where the universe is saying, how serious are you about this? How serious are you? So when that stuff starts to come up, we need to make a decision. And we need to, so we're taking action and now we're going to commit. So I'm going to register for the course. I'm going to have my money ready to go. And now I'm going to go and attend the classes. All right. So that's where we're committed. And one of the things that came up when I was thinking about this committing part this morning, there are often bumps in the road that we don't know we're going to hit, or things like a door closes and we're not expecting it because we think we're going in the right direction, and then all of a sudden a door slams shut right in front of us. So we have to be prepared that we're going to hit bumps. We have to be prepared that there are going to be challenges or things are going to sort of fall apart. But if you are really committed, if you're really committed to this goal, really committed to this direction, then here's the thing that I would like you to remember when those things happen. A rocket is off course 90 to 95% of the time. A rocket is off course 90 to 95% of the time. That means that that rocket is constantly correcting, constantly correcting, constantly correcting. So every time that well, I mean, I'm going to say it knows, but that's not the right word for a rocket. But every time it knows that it's gone a little bit off course, then it just shifts it, shift, 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 shift. So you must be prepared to shift and to go with the flow, because sometimes you're going to come into those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that this thing is not for you. Maybe this thing going in that direction is not for you, but if you course correct and go this way, that's exactly the right path. So pay attention, commit, and be prepared to course correct or pivot or whatever. There's so many words out there for this thing. It's exactly the same thing. Be prepared to course correct or pivot as you go along your journey and you run into roadblocks or bumps in the road. All right. So I'm going to share with you really quickly this beautiful poem. It's by John Greenleaf Whittier. And then we are going to head to our last break. So it's called Don't Quit. This is one of my absolute favorite poems on the planet. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about when we might have won had we stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow, you may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup, and he learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt, and you never can tell how close you are. So stick to it may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worst that you must not quit. All right, that's John Greenleaf Whittier. Love that poem. I've actually got it posted. So if you want that and find it, you can Google that and find it for yourself. So we're going to head to our next break, our last break actually of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this how of manifesting, and we'll just wrap up that conversation. So stick with us. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to the last segment of Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about the how of manifestation. How do you do this thing? So I have a little tickle in my throat. Sorry about that. It'll go away in a minute. So what I want to just talk as we're wrapping up this conversation, what I want to talk about is this idea of how to keep yourself in the space of I really want this thing, or how to know that you're in that space. So the first thing that I'm going to share with you, people have talked about vision boards a million times in my life, and I'm betting that you've heard of them too, but I couldn't do them. I didn't really know what to do with these things. And I was so still in my mind, in my left brained, Jackie, that I really thought that there was sort of a right and a wrong way to do this. I went to a workshop that a friend of mine was giving about doing these vision boards one time. And I remember getting so surprised at myself because, we had this group of ladies were sitting around in a circle on the floor, and there were all these magazines and, pictures and all kinds of things. And she gave us this piece of Bristol board, and we were supposed to put our stuff on it. And the first one that I created was actually full of pictures about like bright colors and fun and laughter and people playing and stuff. Sorry, this tickle just won't go away. But that was the one. That was the one that helped me understand that that was the thing that was missing for me. One second, guys. Sorry about this. All right. That's never happened. Anyway, visualize. Surround yourself. Surround yourself with pictures. Surround yourself with bright colors. I'm so sorry. Anyway, visualize what it is that you desire. Put it on a vision board. Find the pictures of the things. Pay attention to what you put on it. For me, it was about this the brightness, the vibrancy, the fun, the joy, the playfulness. Those were the things that were missing from my life. And I didn't understand it until I did that vision board. So pay attention to what shows up. It's actually still hanging in my house, and it probably always will be hanging in my house because I love it so much because of what it brought to my world. It made me conscious of the things that I needed to bring into my world to become that happier Jackie and really move toward the things that I wanted to create for myself. Read things, watch things, surround yourself with people who support and inspire you in your mind, in your world. Surround yourself with those people. You want your tribe because your tribe are the people that are going to see you and they're going to know that you've got this even when you don't. All right. So surround yourself with your tribe and your loved ones. And now I'm going to give you the quote that I wrote this morning to leave you with. Only you can decide if your dreams and desires are important. You can choose to ignore them, or you can choose to embrace them and do what's required to put yourself in the position to have them. Manifesting is more than dreaming. Action is required. You get to choose whether you only dream or whether you create. It's completely up to you. What do you choose? So, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott of Subliminal Mindset Mastery in London, Ontario. We will be back next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11, what is it? 11 Mountain and 10 Pacific. Next week's show is called Empowered, Dancing with Your Demons. Oh my gosh, it's going to be a good show. We're going to be talking about living an empowered life by challenging your belief systems that have held you back whenever they come up. So thank you so much. I hope that you have learned something today that has challenged or shifted something important for you. I'm so glad you've been with me on Time to Rise and Thrive. Again, I'm Jackie Mott, Subliminal Mindset Mastery. Until next week, it is your time to rise and thrive.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.